Hot Springs National Park, a true American oasis. Here, spring water heated by a geothermal gradient gushes out of the earth at 143 degrees Fahrenheit. People have long believed these waters to have curative properties, and historic Bathhouse Row stands as a reminder of a time when thousands would flock here for a chance to experience a refreshing soak. Not that kind, Mormons, relax. This park sits on the very first piece of land ever set aside by the federal government for recreation. And until very recently, it held the title of smallest national park by area in the entire national park system. Nestled in the Ouachita Mountains of Arkansas and only a short 7-hour drive from our home in Houston, this felt like a perfect place to begin our journey. My name is Trevino, and recently my wife Ellie and I set a goal for ourselves to visit all 63 national parks in the United States before we die. Little did we know the final boss of that goal would be the untamed wilderness of Alaska's Gates of the Arctic National Park. A place with zero amenities where only the most experienced outdoorsmen stand a chance. So we're taking baby steps, developing the skills we need to survive by visiting all 62 other national parks that this country has to offer. What better place to start than a small town just a short drive from home? The first thing I want to say is that, like all land in this country, this area was originally frequented by Native Americans, specifically the Caddo, Choctaw, Cherokee, and Quapaw, among others. This Valley of the Vapors was a place where neighboring tribes would lay down their arms in order to enjoy the healing waters in peace. This was the case for over 8,000 years before the Quapaw ceded the land to the government in 1818. Shortly thereafter, the hot springs and what would later become over 5.5 thousand acres of nearby mountains were designated as a federal reservation by President Andrew Jackson in 1832. This was a full 40 years before Yellowstone was immortalized as the first national park in America, and the world for that matter. But because this idea of federally protected land was so new, Congress didn't really know how to enforce that yet. No one from the federal government was really around to manage the land, so people just kind of kept doing what they were doing, building homes and businesses in the area. This lack of enforcement, combined with the supposed healing powers of the waters themselves, gave rise to what is now Bathhouse Row. This block of 8 opulent bathhouses was completed in 1923, and the area was so impressive that it was designated America's 18th national park in 1921. The town of Hot Springs was also a favorite of gangsters during Prohibition and hosted Major League Baseball spring training until the 1950s. It was around this time, though, that the popularity of the bathhouses had begun to decline, and by 1985, all but one had ceased operations. These days, most of the bathhouses have been converted into museums or stores or restaurants, but there are still 2, the Buckstaff and the Quapaw, that still offer visitors the chance to enjoy a spa treatment. Now that we know how the park came to be, let's get into the trip. Like I mentioned up top, Ellie and I drove the approximately 400 miles from Houston, Texas to Hot Springs, Arkansas, and it wasn't too bad. Obviously, I can't speak to where you're coming from, but at least once you get into the mountains, the scenery is pretty pleasant. For those coming from further away, there is an airport in Hot Springs, but it's a small regional airport, so it's a little bit more expensive to fly into. I'd probably just fly into Little Rock and then drive the little bit less than an hour that it takes to get to Hot Springs. Now, as we drove into town, we were really excited when we saw all of the bathhouses and the shops and the gorgeous hotel at the end of the road. But as we kept driving down Central Avenue and turned onto Park Avenue, we were a little bit more worried because, I don't know, the town just kind of very quickly became a little bit rough around the edges. We stayed at this little place called the Gold Inn a little bit down the road, and honestly, even though we were a little bit nervous at first, our stay there was great. We never felt unsafe, and the hotel was honestly super clean, super nice. It was a great time, and we'd definitely go back. For about $90 a night, we got to stay in a room with a king-size bed about a 5-minute drive from the heart of the park. However, if you want the best experience possible, I recommend staying as close to Bathhouse Row as possible. The crown jewel of the area is the Arlington Hotel and Spa at the far end of Central Avenue. It's a historic establishment that apparently Al Capone and Babe Ruth once frequented, and it's right in the middle of downtown Hot Springs and the national park. It looks to me like a weekend stay in one of the cheapest rooms will run you about $163 a night in the summer, so it's really not prohibitively expensive either. But basically, if you stay anywhere north of Grand Avenue and anywhere south of Park Avenue, you should be within walking distance of most of what this park has to offer. Just one more option for lodging in case you're so inclined. There is also a campground. It's called Gulfa Gorge Campground. You can stay there for pretty cheap, but it is also essentially at the bottom of Mount Hot Springs, and it's on the opposite side that Bathhouse Row and the rest of the attractions are. So it's a bit of a trek to get up and over, but you know, if you're into camping, there's that. So we get to our hotel in the late afternoon on day one, and we thought we had enough time to get in a quick hike before dinner. Now, Hot Springs National Park forms sort of a ring around a bit of a residential area in the middle of the Ouachita Mountains, but most of the popular trails and attractions are on the southeastern side of the park near the base of Hot Springs Mountain. We already had a spa appointment in that area the next day, so we decided to head out to the west of the park while we had time. We decided to check out the Sugarloaf Mountain section of Sunset Trail, and we started up the path around 5:30 p.m. Let me tell you, the mountains of Arkansas in the spring are a magical place to be. All right, we're here at Hot Springs National Park. We're about to take the Sunset Trail to Sugarloaf Mountain over there, that direction. Let's get to it. We were worried about the heat initially, given that we went in May and the temperatures were already reaching the mid-80s. But with the lush canopy overhead and the damp rocks and forest floor below, the trail was surprisingly cool. There was no one else out here, and it was quiet enough to hear the wind rustle the leaves like waves overhead. The wildlife was out as well, and we even found this little turtle making his way across the path. Oh, we're gonna just be passing through, buddy.
Bye, friend.
Oh, he went in the shell. Good call. And man, the view from these rocks was amazing. And we even spotted a few flowers that can't be found anywhere else on Earth. It was a gorgeous first hike, but it certainly didn't come without its challenges. Like I said, I'm an amateur in every sense of the word, so all I brought with me to hike was some beat up old trainers and a 24-ounce water bottle in a backpack I got off Amazon for 20 bucks. Do I think that was wise? Probably not. Did it work out okay? Yeah, mostly. Hot Springs National Park is one of the most accessible national parks in the country, which is part of the reason why we picked this one to start our journey in the first place. Don't get me wrong, there are some hikes here that can be pretty strenuous, but you're almost never more than a mile away from a paved road. And cell service is pretty much available the whole time. That being said, that first evening on the trail taught me a lot about how important it is to have a plan. For starters, the sun had already begun to set by the time we started our hike, and I hadn't fully researched the trail that we were going on. I thought it was an out and back trail that would have been a 3-mile round trip, but turns out that 3-mile distance was a one-way reading. We didn't realize this until we were about 2 miles in, so we were racing against the sun to make it out of the woods before dark. I mean, we made it in plenty of time, but it added a ton of unnecessary stress to what was supposed to be an easy warm-up for our trip. These are our first 2 lessons of the journey. Give yourself time and know your route. Also, my phone died just as we began to turn around to head back to the car. You want to navigate?
Sure.
Or no?
Your phone's on 11%.
Oh no. How's that possible? I guess I was using it to navigate all day on the way to Arkansas, and so it was out of battery, but I did end up losing our All Trails guidance as well. Luckily, the trail didn't branch too much, and it was only a 2-mile hike back to the car. So that's lesson number 3. Make sure your devices are charged. Not only did my phone die while we were out on the trail, but I didn't realize until we made it back to the hotel that I hadn't notified anyone where we were going or how long we were expected to be out. This is super important. Even if you think the trail is super easy, or if everyone you know is too far away to help you immediately, be sure that someone knows where you are and how long you expect to be out, so that if you run into trouble out there, they can send help if you can't signal for it yourself. That's lesson number 4. Tell someone where you're going. Finally, a couple safety notes specific to this park. First, these mountains are littered with navaculite rocks that are just scattered all over the trails. These rocks were once formed into arrowheads by Native Americans, but now they just sit in big chunks along just about every single path in the park. Proper hiking shoes would have definitely helped me out here because I could feel just about every single rock through the worn down sole of my old trainers. I probably do need to invest in some better shoes though, because I can feel all the rocks through my shoes. And I felt like I could probably roll my ankle at any minute. So if you have any hiking shoe recommendations, please drop them in the comments below. That's lesson number 5, wear proper footwear. Second, the trails in the western part of Hot Springs National Park have much narrower trails than the more popular areas in the southeast, and they have this long grass that leans over directly into the walking paths. There's a lot of worryingly tall grass on this side though. These long grasses are practically unavoidable when walking on these trails, and also they're the perfect habitat for ticks. So when we got to the end of the hike, we found a bunch of them on our shoes and socks. I would recommend long pants and high socks, or bug spray if neither of those suit you. You can even just avoid that part of the park entirely if you happen to bring your dog with you or you really don't want to risk getting bitten. Lesson number 6, cover up. But even though we had some trouble, we made it back to the hotel and we got all cleaned up. For dinner, we went out to this place right near Bathhouse Row called the Ohio Club, which apparently has been there since the early 1900s. It was a pretty cool place, really chill atmosphere. There was live music when we went, even though it was like a Sunday night, I think, and the food was really great. Apparently, it was a speakeasy during Prohibition, which is really cool. But the margarita Ellie ordered wasn't the best, so maybe try a different drink if you end up going there. And after that, we headed home and went to bed, ready for day 2. We started the morning by walking to the donut shop down the road, which was a donut shop. It was alright. Before heading back down to Bathhouse Row to look around and start our second hike. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of the bathhouses have been restored and converted for other uses. So while we were there, we decided to take a look inside a couple. We stopped by the National Park store in the restored Lamar bathhouse to get our stamp, and then headed to the visitor center a couple of doors down, which has a lot of the original bathing facilities and also a lot of really cool information about the hot springs themselves in a free museum that you can walk through. It is gorgeous inside, but you definitely get the pseudoscience vibes from some of the equipment that's been left in place. After wrapping up there, we decided to begin our big hike around Hot Springs Mountain Loop. By the way, you can follow me on all trails. I think my name is just Aaron Trevino. You can see what we're up to on these trips. This time our devices were charged, we had purchased bug spray the night before, and we were well rested. So we're much better prepared this time around. And man, was it worth it. This hike was breathtaking. And honestly, none of my words are ever going to be enough to describe it fully, so I'll just let the footage roll and let you see for yourself.
To the embassy suite. All the way back up at the end.
Yes.
Wow. Is that all the way?
I think so. Oh my gosh.
Whoa.
You kidding me?
It's pretty crazy.
The weather was great again, and the wildlife was definitely out in full force. But the highlight of the day was definitely the views. If you're planning a trip out here, Goat Rock is a must-see. There's a bench here that's perfect for a quick lunch break, and the view from here is the most stunning in the entire park. After taking a break here for a while, we went down to Gopher Gorge before returning to the Grand Promenade behind Bathhouse Row. Now, mostly we learned from our mistakes on day 1, but we made a new one here on day 2. We basically didn't bring any water with us. I think we had this idea in our head that we could fill our water bottles at one of the spring filling stations, but I guess we just didn't think to do that before we left for the hike. We had a little bit left over in my water bottle, but for the most part, we completed the 4.5-mile hike without hardly any water to drink. So that's lesson number 7. Make sure you have water. When we got back, we did try and look for a place to fill our water bottles, and we did end up finding a place that dispenses water directly from the hot springs. I filled my water bottle here, but as you can probably guess, the water came out super hot, so we just waited until we got back to the hotel to refill our water bottles. But now that the hard part was over, we could finally relax as it was time for our spa appointment. We both rinsed off a little bit in the shower before we headed off to Quapaw Bath and Spas to celebrate Ellie's 24th birthday in style. Our package included a 20-minute bath in the water from the hot springs, a 40-minute Swedish massage, a 10-minute facial, and a 15-minute foot scrub, all for about $350, so honestly, for both of us, that's pretty good, I think. I don't know. I don't get massages often. Is that good or is that bad? The spa was amazing. And especially after such a long hike in the morning, it was so refreshing to get to take a nice warm bath while sipping on ice cold cucumber water. Our massages were off the charts as well, and honestly we left feeling like new people. If you do want to book an appointment here for your own trip, I do recommend doing it at least 2 to 3 weeks in advance, especially if you want an appointment date on the weekends. If you're in the area already and you're seeing this and looking for things to do, the Buckstaff Bathhouse does offer walk-in appointments, but they provide a much more traditional bathing experience like you would experience in like the early 1900s. And they also only offer solo experiences as well. Now, their services are cheaper. They'll run you between about $45 to $116, but they are much more limited. One last thing for those of you who want to go to the bathhouses, if you have children, it may be a little bit difficult to do. The Quapaw doesn't provide services to anyone under the age of 14, and for the Buckstaff, the minimum age is 10. But anyways, to cap off the night, we wanted to check out the Lake Hamilton area of Hot Springs, and so we went down to a restaurant called Luna Bella. Now don't let the outside appearance of the restaurant fool you. That seems to be a running theme in a place like this, but man, the food was good. It's still a very nice Italian restaurant with good ambiance, and it was still reasonably priced on top of all that, so I couldn't recommend it more. It's really great. It was also one of the only restaurants open past like 8 p.m. And that leads me to one of my last tips about Hot Springs, Arkansas. A lot of the restaurants that aren't like McDonald's or like Wendy's or something like that close super early, like 8 p.m., 9 p.m. maybe if you're lucky. And on top of that, a lot of them are closed on seemingly random days in the beginning / middle of the week. I'm used to places being closed on Sundays, which is kind of what we ran into the first day we were there, but we also ran into some places that were closed Sunday through like Wednesday. And then even stranger, some places were closed on like Monday and Wednesday, but open on Tuesday. It was very weird. So my advice is if you're gonna go to Hot Springs, Arkansas and you wanna eat out at a nicer restaurant, either have a reservation or just have a plan for where you're gonna eat and make sure that you can make it there on time after you're done doing whatever you're gonna do in the park. Plan it out ahead of time because there were times where we were scrambling because we didn't think that places would be closed by like 7:30, and yet some of them were wrapping up service. So that's just my advice to you. But anyway, we finished our meal and ended the night with some ice cream before heading back to the hotel to get ready for a 7-hour trip back home the next day. So that was Hot Springs National Park. Definitely a unique place in the national park system, mostly because most of what makes it unique can be experienced without doing anything particularly outdoorsy in a traditional sense. Even though half of one of our days was spent as like a luxury spa day in a very pampered environment, we still learned a lot from our first stop on our tour of America's 63 national parks. Let's recap. Lesson 1 and 2 can pretty easily be combined into one simple sentence, which is have a plan. That means number 1, give yourself time to get where you're going, and number 2, know beforehand where that is. Lesson number 3, make sure your devices are charged, whether that's just your smartphone you're using for like an all trails map, or it's like a safety device like a flashlight or a satellite phone if you have to charge those. I don't really know. Lesson number 4 is super important, and we've done it just about every other place we've been. I don't know why it slipped our minds this time, but tell somebody where you're going and when you expect to be back. This is so important because if you find yourself in a situation where you are unable to move and get back to where you started from, or you are unable to signal for help and you need it desperately, someone who knows where you are and doesn't hear back from you in the time you specify can send help without you having to notify them directly. Lesson number 5 and 6 are all about having the proper clothing for the activity you're about to do, like good hiking shoes or pants that protect you from ticks and other biting pests. And finally, lesson number 7, bring plenty of water or a way to purify more. That last part, something I have no experience doing, but I'm sure I'll get familiar with it in future videos. Now you may take a look at this list that I've just read out and think, hey man, some of that stuff is super basic. Are you sure you're cut out for this? To that I would say, I had the same question if I'm being honest, but there's 2 things about this list that I want to make clear. First of all, if you're an expert in anything, you'll know that there are often things that come like second nature to you. So much so that in trying to teach someone else how to do the thing you're an expert at, you may forget to mention them at all. Here, people with little to no experience can have those dumb questions answered without having to make those mistakes themselves. And I think that's a really important thing. The other thing is that I want to be honest with you all. 1, so I can get tips from people who have been doing this thing for a lot longer than I have, but also so that everyone out there can tell just how little I know about the outdoors. I want to show people that it's possible to experience these wonders and develop these skills even if you know absolutely nothing going into it. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you can make it out to Hot Springs National Park someday. It really is a magical place, a gorgeous mountain range where thousands of years of geothermal energy bring fresh water to the surface for us to enjoy. If you've been before, or if you go after seeing this video, please let me know how you liked it. I'd love to hear everyone's personal experience. And if you have any tips from me or any other beginners, please feel free to leave them in the comments, as long as you're respectful. Specifically, I'm looking for recommendations on hiking boots right now, tents that I should look out for, and also like a backpack, I guess, like a backpacking backpack. So if you have any recommendations for that, please leave them in the comments below. But with that, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.